He won't be here.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. The meeting for February 28, 2022 at approximately 6 p.m. is now in session. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag led by Councilperson Massa? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will take the roll call. Councilperson Ginever. Here. Councilperson Schonberg. Councilperson Becker. Here. Councilperson Fisher. Here. Councilperson Bradley. Absent. Councilperson Massa. Present. Councilperson Osher. Present. And Councilperson Pickerell. Present. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Madam Clerk, has this agenda been posted, dated, signed, and/or initialed?
Yes, sir.
Before I get into the rest of the meeting, I would like to take a moment of silence for Mrs. Helen Rudolph, longtime resident of Crystal City. At one time, they were owner and operator of Rudolph's Market, which is where our library is located now. But she was an outstanding woman. Thank you. Has everyone had the opportunity to review the minutes of the January 24th meeting? And if so, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I'll move to approve the minutes of the January meeting.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Public comment, we have none. Check register and bills. Councilperson Becker and Madam Clerk.
I'll move to approve the check register and bills and the financial report in its entirety unless somebody has something they'd like to discuss.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Committee reports. Water Committee, Councilperson Piccarella. Right. Right. The only thing is, we've been looking for a major water break for the last, well, at least maybe 2 weeks, and we was losing a lot of water. I mean, I've been all over town looking, stopped a couple times up there on Missouri Avenue but I guess it was the runoff from the rain that cut a ditch down through there, and we had that checked out. They've been checking manhole, and they finally found it today over off of Ozark Drive, up at the dead end by the it was down by the railroad tracks. And I mean, it was coming out of there, but it was headed to a creek. And, which comes under the highway and all the way across to this side of town, 8-inch line. But they finally found it and, got in there and got it fixed today. So that was good on our water department. I'm
surprised they didn't have more.
Right.
The last month or two, it's been.
Right. Well, normally on something like that, you get people that call in, the low water pressure and this and that, but. Where you can see it. Yeah. Right. It was way in the backyard, down in the ditch, going into the creek. You couldn't even see it, so. Public Welfare and Fire, Councilperson Fisher.
There were 25 calls for the fire department and 4 practices. There's more details in your packet. That's all I have.
Yes, sir. Building Commissioner, Mr. Eisenbach, you got anything up for the Building Commissioner? Okay. Street and street lighting, Councilperson Bradley. You have anything on street and street lighting, Mr. Eisenbach? Yes, sir. And I have to give them kudos. I think they did an outstanding job on getting rid of that snow and ice and sleet.
Yeah.
Well, that's unexpected. Police Department, Councilperson Schonberg, Chief Helms.
I don't have it, I believe Chief has.
Good evening.
Couple things before I get started. One is, I think I'm losing my voice if I go for the water, you know what that means.
Sure.
The other thing is, I asked the captain to be here tonight. Captain Bruno is my right-hand man. So he helps run the police department, and has for a long time. Does a great job doing it, and I asked him to be here because we run the police department together. I ultimately make some final decisions, but he's a vital part of our police department and has been since he's been here for 27 years. So I asked him to be here tonight. He works with me on pretty much everything we do. Before I get started, I want to thank you actually for the opportunity to come here tonight and giving me a couple minutes of your time. As chief, sometimes I feel it's important to speak directly to mayor and council, and I thought this was a time to do it after just some stuff. So after saying that, it's budget time and we're moving forward on budget. As usual, I submit things to the police department, the things that we need, and that goes to Jason. I work with him every year on that. Excuse me. And at some point, I had requested to meet with the mayor and have a conversation with him on some things, and I had a brief conversation with Councilperson Schonberg tonight. And again, thank you for your time on listening to what we had to say. Like I said, I typically don't come in front of you. I try to stay off the podium and just get the police job done and move on. So along with the information I submitted on this year's budget, the pertinent information, which is i.e. like vehicle stuff, equipment things, people that are on the salary bracket, things of that nature, I did submit a salary study this year. So before I get into that and a few other things, I just wanted to touch base with you on a few things tonight. And I would say that I do recognize over some past years we've made some increases within the police department, and that has helped us tremendously, and I appreciate that. So I just want to acknowledge that. So moving on September 30th of 2021, in a police personnel board hiring meeting, at some point after business was done, the police personnel board, consisting of Karen Raines, Whitney Lemons, Nicole Hillmeyer, John Winkleman, and Dave Crump, asked me if I would do a salary study for the police department to see where we are at on competitiveness within the policing community. So that's what I started doing. On January 26, 2022, I reported back to the police personnel board in a meeting after another hiring process. So the board reviewed the study, and when I did that, I also took the captain with me. When I spoke to the board, I told them we're big boys and I want their feedback. They're citizens of the community. They faithfully serve that board, and I asked them for their input. So they reviewed that study, and after doing that, they provided their approval of the salary study proposal to move forward to the city government. The board stated they would be willing to meet with police committee or any other police or i.e. government board if there's any further discussion so desired. So I informed the board I would relay this information to city government. So the study was conducted to evaluate our police salaries, like I said, to agencies to keep us competitive as it relates to, and I put one primary thing, that's the scope of our job, being policemen and women. This is typically the number one basis for determining pay, and the study was conducted from the chief's position down, and I will be the first to tell you that that's not the favorite part of my job as chief of police, but I tried to get accurate numbers. I got data from other police departments. I spoke to other police chiefs and a few other city government officials. So the reason I've done that is I want to be accurate. If I'm going to report something, it needs to be as accurate as I can get it, and if I'm going to report that back to you. So Jason and I have had some discussions on this, and you know, we work pretty close hand in hand trying to run the city and the police department, and so he has a copy of that, and we've talked about it and discussed it. On this salary study that I did, it, contains Arnold, Festus, Jefferson County, Herculaneum, DeSoto, Hillsborough, and Peebly. And then I come out with average salaries, starting mid-top, patrol, sergeant, captain, chief, things of that nature. And I went to Jason personally, and it's not the easiest thing to say, but I'm just gonna tell you the way it is. I went to him, and we're friends, and sometimes you gotta be business partners. So in order to accurately do this, I got some numbers from people above me, which typically is a sounding board to accurately do a salary study, which would be the city administrators, to see where that puts me in line, because that starts setting the tempo for the rest of the department. And what I found when I did that and tried to get an accurate number, I started plugging in the other numbers of what my proposal was, and it ended up almost falling pretty closely in line with our current salary scale now, what the differences are, like between a patrolman, a starting patrolman, mid-patrolman, top patrolman, sergeant, captain, things of that nature. So when I did that, I gave Jason a big number, of what the proposal was that was submitted, reviewed, and asked to be moved forward. And he has that number, and he'll have more information for you on that. And what I did is I went ahead and hypothetically I put in if something like that was to be done with the people we have and the personnel we have, what does that do to our salary structure? And I took what last year's salaries were, and then I plugged all that in, and what does that number come out above and beyond last year's salary? Now, saying that, he's the benefit specialist. I got some of the numbers and can get fairly close, but that does not include benefits, what this number is. So I try to leave that to Jason. He can micromanage that and get that spot on. So, saying that, I will say this, not to jump in front of myself, that when I'm done speaking with you, I have a packet for each person. I'm gonna give you a packet so you have some information to review. So I'll do that when we're done, and you'll have some of this stuff. So a couple of things I want to talk about, and I promise I'll try to move through this quickly and not bore you to death, but in policing right now, we're seeing a very difficult time. I'm not here to say woe is us. We're policemen. We take on that responsibility, and we protect this town. But competitiveness in the job market has got at an all-time high, both for tenured policemen and recruits. Currently, the number of cadets is an alarming all-time low. Police academies are struggling to have classes. The police academy recently told me, the head of the police academy recently told me he's never seen so many people in need of police officers. So I went to a police graduation at Hillsborough not too long ago. We fought really hard to get a young guy at our police department I'm really happy with, and I hope he stays. And we got him. So I went out there and put on my best duds as chief of police to represent this town, because that's what we do. And we have a good reputation. So I go out there and I walk into Hillsborough, and big crowd and camera there and everything else. And I walk in, I look around, I don't hardly know anybody. And I'm like, so of all the graduations and recruiting and standing in front of cadets that I've done in police academies, I sit down. When I sit down, there's two commanders beside me from Lebanon, Missouri. There's two from Ferguson, commanders, 30-year guys. The chief and a detective sergeant run Maryland Heights that I worked on the road with in Jefferson County, one of the best policemen I know in 95 and 6 was there with the chief. I look over and there's, and I look over and there's, and I look over, there's 4 St. Louis County commanders, and I look around, I'm the oddball at the Jefferson College Police Academy. The reason I tell you that is because everybody's headhunting like we've never seen. They're coming to the academies all over, and they're getting these recruits. And the competitiveness has gotten like we've never seen. I turned on the news the other day, and they had 2 policemen on St. Louis County talking about their police department. Right now, there's 60 officers down, 60 police officers in St. Louis County. The head of the police academy told me, he said, you're not going to believe this. And he's told me more than once because he's just dumbfounded by it. He goes, we got people coming from Kansas and Dakotas and everywhere else coming in here to get policemen. So I'm just trying to let you know a little bit what the demand is for a policeman right now. And the other thing to keep in mind on that is now it's got so competitive that they're trying to get your senior guys. Like, they don't always want 1 to 3 year policemen no more. They're looking for commanders, they're looking for everybody across the board. So, when I talk about this stuff as your chief of police, it's my sole intention to maintain the quality of personnel it now takes to successfully run a quality operation to provide both protection to the city and a satisfactory level of safety to the community. We have a good police department here, and we fought like tooth and nail for the last 8 years as your chief of police, or I'm in year number 8, which I can't believe, to keep that quality here and that standard here, and it shows. I mean, if I want to get into statistical data with you, we could compete against some pretty heavy hitters, and that's because we've got good policemen. Good policemen enforce the law. So we've been very, very lucky on that, you know, and we work real hard for that, and we take pride in that. So there's a few things here, and I don't want to be repetitive, but I put the inability to attract and retrain quality and experienced personnel can have a detrimental effect on many areas affecting the city. As city government, I want you to realize what effects it can have, and I put the ability to meet legal standards and training mandates. That's all went through the roof. They want more. They want more training, more hours, more legal tests. Our guys are taking 18 legal tests written by attorneys in a 12-month period now that they have to pass. 18 in a 12-month period written by attorneys they have to pass. Costs associated with turnover. If you have turnover, it always costs you a lot of money in a lot of different aspects with your police officers. Loss of production, because really even if you're a newer police officer, it takes a while to learn how to be a police officer. And then I put in bold print, increased liability and overall safety and protection. That's 2 of the biggest factors in policing, is your liability. We briefed you guys on something that, an incident we're dealing with here, and thankfully we had good police personnel that acted appropriately, we feel, at this point, and took the right steps to address the situation. But the liability is very high for a policeman right now, and I'll talk about that a little more. And then the overall safety and protection. So Crystal City, I put, has a good reputation. I already said that. And that's because of the whole operation. I mean, you guys couldn't be a better city government to work for. I know most of you personally. And we take a lot of pride in that. You graduated from this high school. I mean, he is Crystal City, you know. So, saying that, you know, Mike even said this the other day. He said, you know, reputation's starting to kind of not be enough. That was a key part of our attracting people, and we still have that, and it still plays in. And actually, the young guy that we got this time, I think reputation was still a heavily influencing factor of getting him. But, I mean, simply put, the competition's got stiff. That's just the way it is. And when you're competing against not only people within your own county that have taken steps, you're competing now. I actually, you see this, I have this on the salary study, and I asked the police academy guy, police academy commander, send me some people that come into your police academy. Maryland Heights, Creve Coeur, Richmond Heights, Kirkwood, St. Louis County, Eureka, and Manchester. I said, stop there. That's enough. So I called those PDs, and I got starting salaries, and I got top salaries. I wasn't going to break that all the way down. I mean, they're in St. Louis County, and I fully understand that. But I did get the average starting salary and the average top salary. So now when I'm going in to try to get people, whether I'm in a suit and tie, and I go into our police academies and stand up in front of people, or I go full uniform, and I go to different places, or Mike and I meet with people, full uniform, this is the people now you are competing with. It's no longer like you have 25 people graduate from Jefferson College and then you can just pick a policeman. That's done. I mean, the police academy instructor told me the other night that they have canceled a police academy. I was just dumbfounded. It's important as your police chief to let you know also that Mike and I try to look a little farther than the front of our faces, because I think it is, we take a lot of pride here. I mean, and this is home. This is what we do, and we want to have a certain quality of team. That's just what our expectations are. So, I'm not just looking at even like current needs right now. Mike and I are actually looking down the road a bit. Where's Crystal City gonna be in 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years? You know, we don't wanna start trending in the wrong way, and then you can't get it turned around. And then you talk about liability, and you talk about money, and you talk about all the things to try to get you back up off the carpet. It could be astounding at that point, but to say that, I wanna let you know that we have people within this police department right now that I feel like could be future leaders of this police department. And that's a big, big deal right now. So, we're taking that into account as far as not only current needs, but looking down the road. And my belief is I wanna retain future leaders, because the other thing is, when you talk about the future leaders, you're talking about people now that are 10, 15-year policemen, that type, commanders now. We have 4 sergeants within the police department. 1 runs a bureau and 3 run the road. And these guys take on a lot of responsibility, and they do a lot of stuff. And I'm just saying that if anything were to be done, that's not my decision, that's yours, see where it takes us. But, I mean, I feel like that's a big deal in keeping these individuals within your department. Mike and I have talked, and I put this down as a bullet point, is we don't want to fall to a certain quality of service. I kind of already touched on that, so I won't dwell on it. But Mike and I are in the policing community, day in and day out. I mean, I think he talked to the sheriff today on a critical incident they had. I talked to the sheriff a few days ago on a critical incident. We're in other police departments. The Peabody Police Chief was sitting in my office last week. I mean, we talk to these people and we interact with them. And I'm not here to say anything negative tonight. I want it to be positive energy. But there's places that we see that we don't want to fall into that caliber of policing. And in order to do that, that's part of how all this package goes together. It's my information to relay to you what it takes to kind of stay away from that, because it becomes a lose, lose, lose. All the way around, it becomes a lose for the leaders, the people working here, the city, so forth. So we focus on the Crystal City Police Department, but we did have this conversation upon multiple times that, you know, we want to maintain a certain caliber, and we don't want to go the wrong direction. I put a bullet point. I don't say this a whole lot because it just is what it is. Our job is to protect the people of this community. That's it. That's what we signed up for. That's what you pay us to do, and we sure try to do it to the best of our ability. But saying that, I just think it's imperative that persons recognize and understand the entirety of services provided by the police department. Typically, I come in here, I try to stay off this podium. If you guys have any questions, I listen. If we need to take care of business, we take care of it. Those two probably hear more than anything, you know, Jason and the mayor at times. But we try to stay pretty subtle in our approach and just keep moving forward. But saying that, I was going through a CAD printout. We keep computer notes every 24 hours. They're sent on our cell phones, they're sent on our computers to the commanders. We look at what's going on, what incidents we have, anything that needs attention, so we can keep on moving after that. And I looked the other day, when I looked, in a 24-hour period, we had 90-something events. So then a short time later, I'm looking at a CAD entry, and we got 80-something events. And I got a copy of those for you after we get done. When I looked at that, even being here as long as I have, I just sat down for a minute and I took that and I just looked at it. And I thought, you know, what a testament that is to the police officers, that they're out touching on 90-some odd events in the city of Crystal City within a 24-hour period. 90-something. That's everything from stolen hubcap to assault to burglary to stealing to walkthroughs, checking our schools, traffic accidents, parking tickets, speeding tickets. A little bit of everything. So the reason I wanted to say that is, you know, typically we go over 20,000 calls a year, typically. Now, we've hit some COVID problems, you know, so things have slowed down a little bit, you know, but just saying that. And then I met with the head of the hospital the other day on something. I told the mayor this, and we were talking, and he come asking for a little help on something. And we had a good conversation, but he says, Chief, I wanna ask you something. I said, what's that? He said, how many times you been to my hospital in the last 2 years? So I said, well, give me 15 minutes, and we keep drinking coffee, and I get my records lady, and I said, hey, start doing some research, and in the last 2 years, 24 months, we've been to the hospital 428 times to take care of an issue. 428 times in 24 months. And those aren't for walkthroughs. I mean, we're dealing with people that have narcotics issues, alcohol, mental health issues. We have a lot of resisting arrest, which, you know, that means you're putting your hands on somebody, you're tasing, macing, fighting, whatever you're doing. So when I said that, he's a very intelligent guy, and I respect him a lot. He just looked at me. Like, he didn't even know what to say, because he didn't realize that. I asked today, I said, tell me how many people we've arrested in the past year. 676 people in a COVID-related year. That's down for us. But due to COVID, some things have suppressed. 676 people have been arrested and went through our booking process in our jails. I touched on before, but we're dealing with mental health and drug addiction more than we ever have. It's almost a daily thing now, almost daily. We have recently had 2 officers injured in the line of duty, and that's what we do. I understand that. I'm not trying to play on anybody's sympathy. I'm just trying to educate. One was chasing a bad guy. The other one's getting ready to have the second surgery after fighting a bad guy that, I think I briefed the mayor on this the other day, that we're pretty sure just fired multiple handgun rounds into a person's home while they were there. He's been kicked out of local schools, and he is a issue, a real problem. So this officer had to engage in a physical confrontation, and has been out of work going on almost a year at this point. Just the other day, we had a subject enter the lobby talking about hearing voices out of a microwave, telling him to kill himself, others, and children. We had to call 4 Festus officers to assist us on that, to safely take this person into custody, resides in our town. We consider him now highly dangerous. And I don't say this as scare tactics. I think that's real clear, that I gotta be honest with you. That's just how I am. And I'm not saying that to fluff any feathers or scare anybody. Like I said, this is our job, but I want people to realize what's going on in that world. Because Mike and I see it. I mean, we've served on drug task force. Mike was the head of the Jefferson County Narcotics Task Force at one point. He's seen everything from scoop to nuts. I spent 2 years in Jefferson County on the road before coming here. I mean, we've seen some things at this point, and it's going on here. And to some degree, at a fairly healthy scale, and we're confronting it. So saying that, I want to move on to a couple positives. I put down positives as we have a good team. We have a good team. We have officers that want to stay here. We have benefits competitive, at least mid-pack, maybe a little better. We create a good work environment here. You guys give us the tools to do the job, and it takes quite a few tools. I was at Twin City Days this year, and I don't do a whole lot except talk to people. The other people take care of it. I was staying at our high school. I was going to wave some runners by. Historically, that's kind of my thing. I get coffee, I park at the school, and I'm just glad to be out. The sunshine is Twin City Days. That's just part of being here. Guy walks over, says, thank you for being a policeman. He's a senior guy, ex-military, retired. And he said, I want to tell you something. I said, what's that? He said, I appreciate what you do. And I said, thanks. I appreciate hearing that. And he said, you know, a lot of people just don't understand. He goes, but I want you to know I understand. And I said, I appreciate that. And I said, I want you to understand something. I don't know why this kicked in, so I had him walk over to my car, and I said, poke your head in that car. So he looked at my patrol car, and I drive a plain car. You know that. I don't even have a fully marked car. I said, you know how many guns I got in that car today? He goes, well, I see 3. I said, 4. He said, like I said, I understand. When I went to work to drink coffee and wave runners by, I had 4 weapons in my vehicle. That's what these men and women are doing, and you guys provide us good tools to do that. And that's a big, big deal, that they have the tools to do the job. Our officers really like this community, they like to be involved in it. And we have a good community in the city government that supports our police department. When I asked for an increase to keep us competitive, it's for many reasons, but the main reason I'm looking at is the overall return on investment for the city versus loss of many services by turnover, and now not being able to replace with quality candidates, upfront spending versus back-end spending. And that decision is not made by me. But I think it's important that you guys know that when we invest this much money, time, and effort into people, that when we lose people, and I fully understand after 8 years that periodically life will send somebody else somewhere and there'll be a change or two, but there's a big back-end cost with turnover. So you start losing this experience, you start losing this investment, and trying to replace that is not easy. The challenges of hiring is stricter now. We have stuff that has come down to me as chief of police right now sitting on my desk that needs to be done. It's come down from state legislature. The mandates are more and more and more. You gotta have this, this, this. You gotta fix this, this, this. Operational demands are higher. Employee actions are more scrutinized, maybe more now than ever. Reporting mandates are stricter. And liability is very, very high. So I'd like to humbly tell you, and I like to say this because I think it's good for me to hear, I could be the best chief in the state of Missouri. Make no mistake, I'm far from it, nor will I ever claim to be. But I've said this because it's a testament to the people. I or the city can't be successful if we don't have a winning team and quality people. So they are the major reason for the success of our police department. You'll see when I pass it out, and I'm just saying this humbly before you because I will do what I can do. But most of the time, like if somebody leaves the department, like I don't even know if you really know about it, but you know, we had a guy leave as a mid-level policeman recently, and it went to a competitor that I can't compete with. So Mike and I are like, okay, and he left here in tears, if you want to know the truth, because he loves the city, loves working for us. So then, within the last week and a half, I have another background being done on an officer that graduated from this high school and I thought would never leave this police department. And now he's in the process. And since then, I've been recontacted again. So when I tell you these things, I'm just saying that, you know, I don't know what direction this is going to lead us in, and I don't have the exact perfect answer for you tonight. I just need to let you know that Mike and I, after many discussions, it's a serious thing. And, you know, like I said, I'm not doing my job as your chief of police, and it's not my favorite thing to do, nor is it easy to get up here in front of you and talk about money especially. But if I don't do that, then I'm not doing what I signed up for. And Jason and I, you know, we like to round ball. How can we fix it? You know, we're fixers. We can fix it, we can fix it, we can fix it. And, you know, we've discussed a few things, and he threw a few out. I threw one at him today. But right now, like a few of the options, I don't know that they're viable. We've explored some of them. But right now, I don't know that, you know, one thing Mike and I are hesitant about is going backwards in policing versus either staying steady or forward. And one of them, for example, is even like if this other guy washes out and he goes, you know, do we give up another salary and maybe look at some disbursement again and see if that will, you know, help. But then after conversing with Mike and one of my other sergeants to get feedback, you know, we come to the same conclusion. I go back to, it's 24/7, 365. And so, you know, primarily if nobody's hurt, got COVID, having a baby, on vacation, list goes on, you run it with 12 people. 12 people. 24/7, 365, 12 people. You got 2 detectives during the day and Mike and I. So if you take 2 or 3 of them people out, which, like now, I got a guy in Jeff City trying to get trained to the state of Missouri for something we need to do, so he's gone for a week. Still have somebody on the down list hurt, so then you're gonna have the vacation. You know what I'm saying, you guys have probably all had this issue in your lines of employment, but when we run around the clock, I don't know that that's the answer. Before it was, and we agreed to that, and I brought it actually to your attention for approval, and you guys listened, you approved it at my request, but I met with my commanders, at the time, we thought we could do it, and we have been doing it. But if we would go down to 11 people on patrol, then that's not a place I'm comfortable, is actually, you get into officer safety issues, you get into staffing issues, you get into, the list goes on and on. So that's just an example that, you know, we're trying to come up with an answer and help. But, you know, when you look at, like, what does it take to run an operation, you know, like I was talking to Festus Police Department the other day and got some data back, and I'll give you some stuff on it, but, you know, they are twice our size, but they're doing the same job. So we're doing it with 14 people, and they're doing it with 27. 14 people, and they're doing it with 27. So even though they're twice our size, popularity, we're 50-some-odd% capacity of what we're running it with, you know. So I'm not here to ask for adding police officers. I'm not trying to go that route on you or anything. I'm just trying to say that I think that when you get down to running your police department with any less than what we have, I think you're on bare bones. And, you know, our guys have stepped up over the last year, and there's been some tongues hanging out, but they haven't complained, and they kept moving forward, you know. So anyhow, that's an example of that. I have a packet for each of you, and I'll be willing to meet with anyone for discussions relative to this. If you have any questions on that when you look at it, I would clarify anything that I need to, and be more than happy to have conversation or listen to thoughts. Mike and I, we run an open door policy, and you learn a lot by listening to other people a lot of times. So in the packet, you're going to have a salary study. You're going to have our pay scale. You're going to have a request that I made to Jason, and the other request is, there was no dispatch request in this, but what I did is I did do a study. I've asked for this before, and I can't remember actually if we've made any adjustments on that before or not. I apologize. But I did ask this year for an increase in the Chief's Administrative Secretary position, which it is a police administrator / records clerk. And she's really doing the job of 2 people, if you want to know the truth. So, again, when I compare to some other departments, there's a local police department has 2 people doing that job, and they're paying almost $70,000 to do it. This person has a master's degree, maintains all legal requirements as a police dispatcher if we need her in a total emergency, which I try to never do. And with the duties and responsibilities you'll see that I've attached here, I consider this a skilled position, and I put highlighted here that it's vital to the police department. I mean, after running the police department for 8 years, well, going on 8, I guess, and 5 as your captain, so 13 years I've been either running or assisting your police department. It was so important that I've tried to, and I think we're successful now, pretty much get a second person trained in it in case of an emergency. But the mandates have went through the roof, like I told you before, and I just keep giving these responsibilities to that person. You'll see a pretty close full list of that. So if it was not of that level of importance, it would not be in here. There is no dispatcher salaries in there, and there's nobody else. But to replace this type of person, not good. So anyhow, that's in there. I have a hourly wage rate study comparison starting mid-level and top of our department as compared to a couple others you will see. And what that shows, the reason I did that is to get accurate numbers. It shows some minus and plus percentages of how the police department is percentage-wise off of pay brackets of starting pay compared to other people, mid-level and senior. And I've done that off of, based on current salaries and off a formal salary study that was done by an outside agency. And they set those brackets after they come in and studied that and evaluated that. So that is in there. I put in a pay sheet here that you will see in conjunction with that. I put in the 2 CAD entries of the incidents I told you in a 24-hour period because I want you to get a taste of what goes on. And then I done something else. And I want to just explain this for a second. I stand before you as Chief of Police, 25 years here, 27 in the business, getting ready to start 28 in September. So when I put this in here, I was a little bit hesitant. But again, you guys are the decision makers. And I have to make sure that you're knowledgeable, good, bad, or indifferent, of what these people are dealing with. So over about the past few months, I would just randomly, when I come in, I check my computer, just lightning around, like anybody else in a supervisory position, lightning around to see what, anything that's got the chief's attention, otherwise on to the next. Well, I typically like to look at people's pictures of booking because I kind of like to see what's going on, and then either Mike or detectives will say, hey, do you know about this person in town, or hey, do you know this, or hey, do you know that? So this is 25 people that's in your packet, number 1 through 25, and I just want you to take a look at them. And I'm not going to go through all of them at all, but the first guy is tampering with a motor vehicle, resisting arrest. Second guy is murder, first-degree armed criminal action. Fugitive, St. John County dangerous drugs, $25,000 bond. Jefferson County fugitive, these are all people we arrested on theft, felony narcotics. He was caught in one of our businesses, casing it, getting ready to rob it. St. John felony theft, bond $20,000. Fugitive arrest, 1879. Crystal City assault, narcotics. Felony narcotics. Robbery first with a dangerous weapon. So those 25 are in your packet. And I don't like to dwell on that because Mike and I try to dwell on the positives and not the negatives. And again, this is the nature of the business. This is what we do. This is why we carry guns. And we fully accept that. I'm not here to say anything other than it's imperative nowadays. I mean, you guys turn on your TVs and you see what's happening. And it's not isolated to St. Louis County or St. Louis City or anywhere else. When I talked to that commander at Maryland Heights the other night, Matt DeLee is his name. He's one of the 2 best policemen that I've ever worked around. I worked hand in hand with him in Jefferson County back in the day. And I said, Matt, how's things in Maryland Heights? And he looked at me and he said, Chad, he said, I never thought I'd tell you this, but he said, it's like gangster land. I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, they're stealing our cars, there's gunfights, there's drugs like we've never had. And he goes, well, I'm sure it's no different where you're at. And I go, no. I mean, we live in a good town. We got good people. We still have the people who come here and want to walk, bike, run. When my wife goes anywhere, she prefers to come into Crystal City to walk and bike. So we got a good town. It's not negative Nelly. It's just important that you know what's going on here. And I just happen to be the mouthpiece that has to deliver that so that you do. So, saying that, I don't think I have anything else. If anybody has any questions, I would answer them or get them answered for you. I do appreciate you giving me the opportunity to do this. I told Mike, I said it's not one of my favorite parts of the job. I'm not going to lie to you. But it is an important part, and it's important in the aspect of you know, Mike and I are both athletes, and I guess it's instilled in us. You wanna play on a winner. You wanna play on a winner. And we've been able, I feel like through hard work, and there's been a few battles along the way, don't get me wrong, to keep a winner. And when you see what's going on and the things that are happening and the potential that can even happen farther, then, you know, I wanna keep us in a competitive realm to keep us moving forward as a city and a police department. I had the mayor sign that, and you guys signed it. That was for the traffic grant that you passed around. So I think the traffic grant was about $16,000. I think it was $16,000. That's the minor possession grant was $16,000. The hazardous moving was $26,000 that we applied for, and typically that's about what we get to enforce traffic. And other than that, tell you one last time, thank you. Thank you for being the city government that will at least listen, and I do appreciate that. Anybody has any questions, let me know. Captain, do you have anything to add?
No, I think you said pretty much, you know, we like to fight for our guys, and obviously, that's one of the things is, it's very important, because what I have around here is good resources with other departments. I know where they're going, and they're always fishing to get our guys, they pulled several of them away from us already because of salary, and, you know, they're, both the guys that just left recently were like, we don't wanna go, but $10,000 for our family, I'm like, hey, I get it, you know? And it's one of those things that, whether it's this year, next year, or coming up in the future, that if, you know, you keep this in mind, that we wanna keep a good department, and we're just asking for middle of the road, that's it, nothing high, nothing low, just, definitely not low, because we wanna be like some of the police departments around there, we wanna keep good officers. Because here in a couple years, I don't know about a couple, but 5, 6 years.
Easy what you say there.
We're gonna be gone, Lean's gonna be gone, Billy Reese is probably gonna be gone, we're all gonna be retired at some point in time. And it's important that the guys that we develop inside here come up and they're your next chiefs, or your next captains, or supervisors, because I'm planning on moving to Crystal City, and I told them, I said, well, if I died of a heart attack on the toilet, I want you guys picking me up. I'm gonna be naked for you guys, I was like, you're gonna be picking me up, I was like, I trust my buddies, you know, and, it's just important to have good cops coming up, you know. Eddie Robinson, one of the best cops, if not the best, one of the best cops I've ever been around, works right here. A while back, he was thinking about leaving to go to Ameren or the gas company, one of them, I forgot, but, I mean, he decided to stay, but he stays because he wants to stay, and we have a good city to work for. That's why we wanna be competitive, at least getting up into the area. Because then somebody like that, he's not replaceable. And I tell everybody, I was like, he's one of the cops that I'm like, he probably would blew me away in my day, because he's good. He's a good investigator. He's probably responsible for half those arrests, or being the knowledge behind it. I'm telling you, this guy's one of the most impressive officers I've been around, and he's a humble guy. He's level-headed. Those are the guys you won't hear whenever we leave, and some of the other.
And the other thing, like I said, and I'm getting off this podium, like I said, that, you know, a lot of people don't realize, like, what actually goes into a policeman and what it takes to actually be able to do the job now. I mean, we're putting in-car computers now. Everything's ran via computers. Like I said, I went over legal mandates, the training things. I mean, this all has to get done repeatedly. I mean, they have to have so many hours to the post state in Missouri a year, they can't even be a police officer. And those have all increased. All the demands have increased, like what needs to be done. So we put a lot of stock into them. We put a lot of money and training into these people to get them up to where they're functioning for the overall operation. I kind of touched on that, but that's just a really, really important part. So saying that, at the conclusion, I will hand those packets out, and thank you for your time. Questions?
Just real quick, Chief, you mentioned a couple of people have left recently. Do you have a number for how many people left all of last year, or within the last 12-month period?
Yes, I would. I don't have it on the top of my head, but
Okay.
I would.
All right.
And to be honest with you on that, Jack, it it hasn't been a big problem because we've been, I mean, we were on the forefront. If you remember in 2016, we passed a proposition here, and we were on the forefront of anybody doing that, and our citizens passed that, and we made great strides, and that was giant for, you know, emergency personnel, and then we've made some other steps. So, we've made some strides, so it's kept us pretty stable between that reputation, the tools, and the things I talked about. It's kept us in pretty good shape, but I think there's a storm brewing, and I say that carefully to you because I don't want to say anything out of context. But we just know how things run and things go, and we want to stay in that bracket to where we're competitive. That's all I'm asking, is competitive. If we do that, honestly, I think we'll be fine. And if I have to replace one every once in a while, we'll fight tooth and nail to get another one. But we don't want it to trend the wrong way. That's it. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Chief, if I could make just one comment here. I want the two of you to understand, and I would like all your officers to understand that we get it. At least I get it. It's a choice to work here. I know that a lot of your people could go someplace else and make a ton more money, and we appreciate it. And I think we have one of the best police departments around. Of course, I don't really know anything about policing. I'm just going on what I hear and reputation, but that's what I understand. I've never seen any evidence to the contrary. But we have to be, like as the finance guy, as the money guy, I have to be constrained by reality. You know, we have to work with what we have to some extent, and that's why I take time out of my day to try to get this tax issue passed and that kind of stuff, so that we have the resources that we need to get things like this done, so that we can keep the good things that we have in our town.
And I think the most positive part of our town, or one of them, is the environment here and the people and the town as a whole. And I think that Mike said it, I mean, I'm not asking to be the big fish on the block, you know, because I don't think we honestly have to be that, if you want to know the truth. I think that if we can get to a more approachable spot, then we can stay in that competitive range.
You gotta be in the game, though.
Yes, along with the other factors, and I think that we'll be fine. And I'm gonna say one last thing here. I think I said that 3 times, but I don't get your corner too often. But, and I'm not saying this in any negative aspect, and I've actually said a couple things to the mayor and Jason that would support this, that I'm not gonna say publicly, but like, if you, right now, like on the top of our salary bracket, to give you kind of a comparison, if you serve 10 years here, you go to the top of our salary bracket, and then that's where you're at, and that's okay, because that's the top. I mean, it is what it is. But right now, you can go to a competitor right here, and their starting policeman will be $2,500 higher than what our 10-year senior guy is to start. So now, they're not doing that no more because it's got so competitive. Actually, the city has stepped up to the plate, and you guys now, if we get somebody from the academy, you recognize that, and then you guys are giving some reimbursement back toward academy, because what happened is now everybody's throwing every incentive at the world that they can at them to get them there. But saying that now, like if Mike was a 8-year policeman and he's really doing good and we got him, we're thrilled, and you know he's right where we want him to be, well, if he goes somewhere else, they plug you right into where their bracket's at. So just to put that in context, and you'll see a little bit when I give it to you, just what that does to us compared to a competitor. It just puts us out of the game. And if I go into a police academy now, and I'm suit and tie or whatever I can to represent our city, and I go up there, there's 15 other people there or whatever recruiting those 7 candidates, cadets. So you get the picture. I mean, you're all highly intelligent people. You know what I'm trying to say. So I appreciate the comments and appreciate the time. Thank you.
There will be a planning and zoning meeting in March regarding a conditional use permit, and honestly, it's the 17th of March, I believe. And honestly, the subject of that conditional use permit escapes me. Do you remember what it was?
Yeah, it was, up on top of,
Oh, yeah.
Chicken Hill up there.
Yep, it was, I believe the Jesuits wanted to turn 10 Rivermont Drive into a retreat house or something.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
that's all.
Zoning of Appeals, Mr. Ginevra,
I don't have anything.
and Levy Commission, Mrs. Schomburg.
I don't have anything later.
Is there anybody in the audience that'd like to respond from the previous meeting, the past meeting? If not, we'll go on to old business. We have none. New business, we have none. We have resolution number 1-2022. You wanna touch base on that, Mr. Idenbacher?
Excuse me, resolution and the ordinance are still paperwork dealing with the CDBG ADA grant.
Oh, sure.
These should be the final two pieces for that $250,000 grant. So we talked about last meeting.
Right.
For the sidewalk improvement. Yeah, sidewalk.
So the ordinance is included in that as well? I mean, that, the ordinance is related to that as well?
These, yes,
Okay.
it's all the packet. You have to turn it into the,
I believe that we have to adopt the ordinance in order to qualify for the grant, right? Ready to?
Yes.
I'll move to read, resolution number 1-2022 on its first reading. I guess we're only doing one reading.
That's all we have to do is one.
Yeah, right.
Resolution just have to read out one reading.
Resolution number 1-2022, a resolution of the City of Crystal, oh, sorry,
We didn't vote to do it.
sorry. I've never done a resolution.
Okay. Okay. We got a motion and a second.
I
You
got a
got that,
little
Madam
excited.
Clerk?
Yes,
You're
sir.
all right, you're all right. Just chill out there. Now, a motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None heard, so motion is carried. Now, Madam Clerk, we have the reading.
Sure. Resolution number 1-2022, resolution of the City of Crystal City, Missouri, stating intent to seek funding through the Community Development Block Grant Program and authorizing the Mayor, Thomas B. Schilly, to pursue activities in an attempt to secure funding.
I'll move to adopt resolution number 1-2022.
The motion's been made and seconded to adopt resolution -1-2022. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Now we have bill number 1865-2022.
I'll move to read Bill 1865-2022 on its first reading by title only.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to read bill number 1865-2022 by title only on its first reading. Any further discussion?
I have something.
Yes, sir.
Mayor. I've never read anything like a fair housing ordinance before, but I noticed an omission that kind of jumps out at me, is that there's no mention of sexual orientation in here about discrimination. So, for that matter, I'm gonna vote against it, and if you all want, I know we probably gotta get this done probably pretty quick, but I think it would look good if somebody voted against it just for that reason, so.
this is provided to me by CDBG program. So I did not draft this ordinance. I put our name in where I should have put it.
Okay,
That's it. So this is all provided for me that needs passed by the council. So
Okay.
Section 2, Part C, so I mean, what,
Race color.
race color.
Sex is male, female. I guess you could put transgender in there too, but it doesn't say it. I mean, we've got all sorts of words for that these days, and none of it's in here.
Jack, if you find some language that you like on that, I don't have any objection to, fixing it later, but in the name of proceeding with the grant, I'd prefer to go ahead and...
That's fine, that's fine.
Any other discussion? So there has been a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Did you get that, Madam Clerk? Okay.
That was just to read it, right?
Yeah, that's okay.
So, Madam Clerk, we have the first reading of bill number 1865-2022, please.
Yes,
By
sir.
title only.
First reading, bill number 1865-2022, an ordinance providing fair housing for the city of Crystal City, Missouri, defines discriminatory housing practices, and creates a fair housing committee.
I'll move to adopt Bill 1865-2022 on its first reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept bill 1865-2022 on its first reading. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Did you get that, Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir.
I'll move to read Bill 1865-2022 on its second reading by title only.
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded to read bill 1865-2022 on its second and final reading. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Did you get that, Madam Clerk? And Madam Clerk, could, we have the second reading and final reading of bill 1865-2022 by title only, please?
Second and final reading of bill number 1865-2022, an ordinance providing fair housing for the city of Crystal City, Missouri, defines discriminatory housing practices, and creates a fair housing committee.
I'll move to adopt Bill 1865-2022 on its second and final reading.
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded to accept bill 1865-2022 on its second and final reading. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Did you get that, Madam Clerk? So bill 1865-2022 now becomes ordinance 1865-2022. Is that correct, Madam Clerk? I'll poll the council. Councilperson Massa? Councilperson Piccarella?
Yes.
Councilperson Schonberg? Councilperson Fisher?
Yes.
Councilperson Becker?
Yes.
Councilperson Never?
No.
Councilperson Osher?
Yes.
And Councilperson Bradley is absent. We'll go to the, city administrator's report.
Y'all have your packet
It's not really clear if we can talk about the tenants, so it's not really clear for you either.
No, I mean,
So it'd probably be safe if we don't.
they don't make any public announcements until the leases are signed. The leases are not signed, they're in negotiations, but all that information was in the paperwork we passed.
Right.
So I just reconfirmed some more of it last week, so it's in.
Yeah. Okay.
Mayor's report, the only thing I'd like to speak of, and, we have talked about, I think it's up on, is that Taylor? Well, we talked about making that a one-way, they're behind, Jefferson.
Yes.
Where Lonnie's gonna be building them houses up there. There was talk about, you know, from a few of the citizens that were here, making that a one-way street, going one way north. That would be the best way, because as you come out of Parkview, there's two ways to come out of Parkview. You know, you can go up to, Taylor, or you go on up, or Jefferson, and then go on up to Parkview Drive. Also, when you come out of the Parkview area, and you would make a left there to come south on Taylor, it's really tight right there. I mean, I don't even know if I doubt if a fire truck could get through there. if there was cars on both sides of that. I mean, there was talk about it, I'd just like the council's input in on that, and, we don't necessarily have to really do it right now, but get the word out there, because we might hear from some citizens. I wanna have their input on it. I mean, definitely, I don't wanna go up there and just put one way, right now, without the input of the people, and see what they think. We've had a few people come to me and like to see it be made a one-way street, so.
I think it's a good idea,
Well,
because there's not really room to park
no,
cars along there. And
right.
it's just-
And once the construction goes on that Mr. Compton's gonna be putting in up there, it's gonna be nice. He does great work. It's not gonna get any better.
No.
So, I'd like to get the word out there. Maybe we can, Jason, next time you're on the radio, maybe you can talk about it on the radio, get it in a newspaper, what we're thinking about doing, and get some feedback from people, so.
I would tend to agree with Rick. I think it's probably something that should be done unless somebody comes up with a real good reason why we shouldn't.
Why it shouldn't be done.
Right.
And we can, I'll let the council know right now that I think Mr. Turner would be the one in charge of that, our street department supervisor, and he can go up there right now, with the consent of the council and the police department and everything, just go up there right now and put them up. But I don't wanna do that. I wanna get the word out there.
That's a good idea.
So, okay?
It didn't work so well last time we went.
Yeah.
That's on
Center
Parkview.
parking,
Yeah.
yeah.
I tell you what, I went to 2 meetings and got like 6 or 8 phone calls. I've never had so many people call me over those parking spots.
Yep.
That I had nothing to do with. They're looked at.
I thought you was the one that brought it up.
You said we're the gas line, right?
Yeah.
How are you saying that?
Looking for a hacksaw, cut them signs down.
See, I got about 6 or 8 calls too, I gave them your number.
I figured that.
That's the only thing I had. I'll go to the round table. Councilperson Massa? Councilperson Picarella? Councilperson Schonberg? Councilperson Fisher? Councilperson Becker?
No, sir.
Councilperson Ginever? Councilperson Osher?
No, sir.
And Chief Helms?
No, sir.
Captain Bruno?
I do have something, you guys were talking about the sign.
Okay, never mind. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, Mike.
I tell Jason about this, where we have the new, the city building down there. After we had that, little party down there, that one day I was visiting, I just noticed that there was people that were flying in front of that. So it might be worth the city, I don't know, time to put up a stop sign or a yield sign to the city vehicles going in and out.
Going in and out of there? Yeah.
Because that will reduce, if you get hit, and we do a vehicle accident report, and right there in front of the Citrus City Shade Light.
Yeah.
Yeah, like whenever they're coming down, or was it Chester, or whatever that is, yeah.
Yeah.
Put a stop sign there, it will probably help if a bulldozer goes through there and gets smacked or something else. It might lower the city's liability, at least you can say, well, they ran a stop sign or something, because people go flying through there.
Yeah, they do.
It's a matter of time before one of our city vehicles and another car goes boom.
Well,
But I don't think they pay
and
attention.
then I think it just comes down to, business, they're in there all the time, so.
Right, right. And we used to, if you guys recall, we had that down here on Hugg's Landing,
We did.
so, Mr. Eisenbach, you take care of that with Mr. Turner? Appreciate it. Anything else, Mr. Pruno?
Oh,
Mr. Eisenbach? Madam Clerk? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. We are adjourned. We'll take a short break and then we'll go into the special meeting. Yes, sir?
I know.